In the user's manual, there's ways that it shows that the administrator can vote that batch, in a 80%, 20%, 100%, however the administrator chooses, and that basically is a tool to allow them to move votes through the system faster. So this was an anonymous email that was sent to all members of the Arizona legislature, and it was also sent to DOJ. This individual says that please be advised that Pima County Recorder, located at 240 North Stone Avenue, Tucson, Arizona, in Pima County, Arizona, and the Democratic Party added fraud votes in the initial count to the vote by mail totals released at 8 p.m. on November 3rd, 2020. So this coincides with what we observed in the data analytics at that spike. We weren't aware of this email until after the fact. There was a Maricopa County official on videotape that did say that they did not validate the signatures on the write-in ballots this year. So that's a 1.9 million vote fraud potential, even if it's 0.1% of the vote. There's a lot of room for error.
They don't just put
CTP.
in 10,000 votes. They put it in carefully, so it's hard to detect.
They move the algorithms around to different precincts until they get the aggregate number that they want and need, and then they shift the algorithms to other precincts. It would be possible and feasible to do a full audit, a ballot audit, and I also was informed that your state, through the Counterterrorism Information Center and the DPS here in Arizona, do have the capability to analyze and validate ballots for ink consistency. So if there were mass-produced ballots in Maricopa County that were stuffed, your DPS, I've been informed, has the capability to analyze those ballots for paper consistency and ink consistency. So if there were mass-produced ballots, you could determine that on your own.
Excuse me, Colonel Waldron. So I think what you're saying, and I'm going to repeat this back to you, these might be pre-printed ballots to simply move through the system. Is that what you're suggesting?
There are indications. We have affidavits from Pennsylvania that there were ballots that were pre-positioned in a bobtail trailer, a tractor trailer truck, okay, and that these ballots were, the thought was that this was a cache that they could go and grab the amount of ballots they needed and take them to the specific tabulation centers. And that's an affidavit that's from our Pennsylvania work.
Colonel,
TTP is standard.
So repeat one more time the piece of information that I think people were shocked about, because it is hard to believe. Did you say that a Pima County official said that they didn't validate any of the mail-in votes?
That was Maricopa County.
Maricopa.
They didn't
Sorry.
validate the signature. They didn't validate the signatures on the mail-in ballots.
And that's 1.9 million.
Correct.
And do we know who that is?
I would have to get the video.
Tell us about the green button in Maricopa County on the machine. And there is one witness that's going to testify that all day she saw election officials constantly pressing the green button when somebody was voting.
So what that was when a voter wasn't sure, and I believe this was also linked to another witness that's going to talk about with the differences in the pins and the Sharpies, that the Maricopa Elections Division, in early voting, they specified that only use ballpoint pens for voting, and on election day, they specified only use Sharpies. And the idea is that as the bleed through on the ballot, as the scanners would cause an error and an error ballot, by creating the error ballot, the election officials basically would slide those votes into a batch file that could be adjudicated by the election administrator or the operator. And the green button was to say, okay, there's an error, but go ahead and push cast ballot, and it punches that into an error file that can be adjudicated.
The officials certifying have made no effort to find out the truth, which seems to me gives the state legislature a perfect reason to take over the conduct of this election, because it's being conducted irresponsibly and unfairly. And why doesn't your state legislature exercise its responsibility under the Constitution?
Why did DHS say security for this election was the best it had ever been? Do you have any insight into that?
In my experience in life, there's generally two factors for individual. I mean, it's either competence or commitment. So they were either incompetent or not committed to learning the truth at the senior leader level, not
Okay.
at the operator level.
And does DHS know about the information that you've shared with us or that you're sharing with us in the process of this? Have you shared that with them specifically?
And much more.
So beyond what you're saying here, you've gone into much greater depth.
Yeah, we have relationships with our local DHS personnel in Texas, and both the intelligence divisions and CISA. When I started working on this project in August, I called them up and said, "You guys have got to come out and look at it." They did. They spent an initial 3 hours going through this data. At the end of that, one of them said, "I think I need to go outside and throw up." One note that might be important, members of the elections division of CISA, I was told would never attend the meetings or the briefings that were conducted internal to DHS on the material that we had presented.
And I'm sorry, who is that did not participate?
The election security division inside of DHS.
When we're talking about, it was Mr. Krebs? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. He stated the most secure election in history. He stated we're not connected to the internet. He stated no votes leave this country. This is all things he's stated publicly.
It's
So
all
are
on the
you,
CISA website, correct?
right. So are you willing to say under oath that you have seen the connection to the internet? You have seen it go offshore to Germany, Frankfurt. Are these things that you have personally seen and can say that is not true?
Our white hat hackers, yes, they have that traffic in the packets.
So why would he make that kind of comment, do you think?
Either not knowing, believing the myth, or not wanting the truth to be known. It's our understanding that Dominion had a software update, at least in a couple states. I'm not sure about Maricopa County, but like the day before the election. SGO was a separate company, but Dominion acquired Sequoia Systems that was spun off of SGO, and they also acquired Premier, which was spun off of Diebold, but they all have the common core of the common code really goes back to SGO, and that one org chart that I put up there kind of showed the licensing agreements that go back and forth between SGO and Dominion. So it's the licensing for the software and the code. They process it, they retain it. It's in their backup servers.
So they have the votes themselves as well, when that's supposed to be property of the state.
They've got the data. They've got the voter data, voter registrations.
And then you said Dominion sits on the board of Mr. Krabs. Is that right?
That was on the CISA website.
When you say the board, what is the board?
It was their Election Security Advisory Council.
Oh, okay.
When you watch CBS, CNN, any of the mainstream media where they've got the live vote updates, that data is passed live. I mean, it's as the votes are updated. So it's, nobody's getting in a plane and flying the hard drive to New York's. I mean, it's uploaded and it's connected. I think in looking at these systems, we identified, almost a dozen ways that you could inject or interdict to manipulate votes. Anything that is software-based can be manipulated and changed with a click of a button, or, you got 2 USB drives, plug one in and you get one algorithm, you pull it out, you plug another one in, you get a different algorithm. And we also believe on the connectedness, these can be pushed down from the top and shifted down. So think of it like a casino or a state lotto. Whoever owns the eye in the sky, you can control the margins. And that's really, I think, what we're looking at. The ballots are scanned into these image casters, and there's an electronic image created. It goes into results files, and then it goes into validation, adjudication, auditing, reporting, and publishing, and then to Democracy Suite EMS, the Democracy Suite servers, the database servers, the document management servers, and it kind of shows you how this all goes out to the world from this whole system. Election data, this is kind of the top feed to all these servers, but this is really, it's a network. I mean, it's a computer company. It's all networked. It has to be.
There is a plan. There's a larger plan, and it's not a conspiracy theory, and I'm not nuts. But if I wanted to engage in a plan in 2016, Colonel, would I not start hacking and getting the VOTA databases and information of projecting of why do we have, what is the number, 2,000 or 1,200 voters, I believe, in Maricopa County registered that I believe have voted at a vacant lot? I mean, if I really wanted to go down the road, isn't that the way you would target it?
Yeah, and again, it's you can interdict this in multiple levels and multiple methods, and I think that's what's happened. There's so much out there, and it's to your point, you're not a conspiracy theorist, but it's really hard. They've made it so hard for the public to understand it, and we call that in deception operations ambiguity increasing. The server will basically tell you all of the electronics. So once the ballots are processed, the batches and the images, that'll tell you where all those goes, and it'll also tell you any changes to the software, any updates, algorithms that were in place, and that's all present at the code level. And that's really what these companies have balked at, providing access to the code, because they say that that's their intellectual property, and they've been successful at preventing folks from analyzing the code.
It can be changed remotely outside the voting center.
That's correct, and there are references in the user's manual that show how they can do that.